In the distant reaches of the universe, far, far away from planet Earth, an uninhabited spiral galaxy turns, unseen by living eyes. This all changes when a ship flies nearby. Many of Earth's greatest heroes find themselves on board the vessel, with no memory or understanding as to how they got here. Captain America notices another ship is traveling alongside them. Professor X mentally scans this other vessel and is disturbed to find that it is filled with a host of Marvel's greatest villains. The Thing is confused at the news. If the villains are over there, then what's Magneto doing here? But this is hardly the most pressing issue. The heroes look on as outside the stars begin to vanish. The nearest galaxy is suddenly destroyed and is gone in mere moments, swept away like dust. The ships then automatically travel towards one remaining star and witness a planet being formed out of fragments from all over the universe. Dr. Doom is amazed at what he is witnessing when suddenly the villains are attacked. Ultron doesn't understand what is happening. He does not know how he was resurrected or brought on board this vessel. Nothing makes sense. But this is insignificant. He is Ultron. His purpose is to slay all that lives, starting with the men before him. Doom grabs Molecule Man and says that this is the only man who has the power to stop Ultron. But Owen Reese has given up his wicked ways and just wants to hide. His therapist says that he's not to hurt anyone. So Doom comes up with an alternative plan. Molecule Man uses his nearly unstoppable power to get the attention of the almighty Galactus. The Devourer of Worlds levitates Ultron, bringing the robot up to face him. Ultron is unfazed and threatens his attacker, but in an instant, Galactus sucks the energy out of the robot's mouth, and he falls to the ground, dead. A rift then opens in the empty space outside. The heroes and villains hear a voice.
I am from beyond. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish.
This causes Galactus to finally speak. The cosmic being senses that the Beyonder truly exists outside of even the multiverse. Galactus senses the power of the Beyonder and knows that this being is actually strong enough to finally end the Devourer of Worlds' endless hunger. Galactus will not wait or play games and demands that his eternal torment at long last be brought to an end. The being smashes through the ship housing the villains and charges towards the void. Doom follows and manages to make it outside of the hole in the ship before it repairs itself. Both characters fly towards the void, seeking the Beyonder's power, but they are easily repelled and knocked unconscious. To the Beyonder, even Galactus is less than a fly. The ships then begin to move once more. This time, each vessel moves to a separate location on the planet dubbed Battleworld and beam their passengers to the ground below. The heroes start to look around, but they begin to experience dissent in their ranks. The Avengers aren't happy to have Magneto along with them, but the X-Men don't think this is the time and place for a fight. Frustrated, Magneto refuses to have mutant blood spilled on his behalf and sets out on his own. The rest of the heroes relent and decide to appoint Captain America as their leader. The only one who dissents is Wolverine, who views Steve Rogers as the least among them. Meanwhile, Doom wakes up beside a still unconscious Galactus. The villain leaves, truly impressed by the Beyonder's power. He finds a fortress, which has also been discovered by the other villains. Doom enters the Citadel and locates the others. They are glad to see him and agree to have appointed Doom as their leader. They want to work together to get the Beyonder's prize, but Doom is not interested in their petty desires. If they fight the heroes, then it will be proof they are merely the Beyonder's pawns in a much greater game. The true key to all the power and immortality they want lies within the Beyonder himself. But the others aren't convinced and insist that they turn on the heroes. He declares them fools and collapses a part of the fortress around his would-be comrades. As much as it pains Doom, he decides that perhaps the heroes would be more willing to listen to reason, and he sets out in a vessel he finds in another area of the fortress. As he leaves to talk to the heroes, It is revealed that Kang the Conqueror escaped Doom's attack, and the villain sets out to get his revenge. Kang finds an alien weapon in the fortress and is easily able to operate it. He shoots Doom's vessel out of the sky. The heroes witness it and go to investigate the crash site. Doom has survived the attack, and Captain America goes to help the villain up. Though Doom did come here to negotiate, he sees pity in Steve's eyes and flies into the fury. Doom needs the aid of no man. Soon all will grovel at his feet. He unleashes a massive bolt of energy on the heroes and leaves. Before they can give chase, the heroes are suddenly attacked by the rest of the villains. Doom flies by Galactus, who is waking up. The cosmic being ignores Dr. Doom, who is nothing in comparison to the Devourer of Worlds. Soon Doom returns to the villain's now empty fortress. This place is filled with many advanced alien technologies, some of which may be useful for Doom. He easily defeats the fortress's security and comes across the body of Ultron. Meanwhile, the battle between hero and villain rages on, until the heroes are able to overpower and capture many of their enemies. They take their captives and have Storm scout the area to find them a defensible shelter. The planet's unusual climate and structure makes this task easy for the mutant, who is more powerful than ever. She discovers a fortress similar to the one found by the villains. This place is massive, and Iron Man states it must be larger than even the Pentagon. As they enter the base, Colossus realizes that Lockheed, Kitty Pryde's dragon and companion, has gone missing. He was with the heroes on the ship, but has now disappeared, and Peter is worried that Kitty will miss her dragon when they return to Earth. They secure their prisoners and begin to explore the facility. Like the villain's base, this place is filled with useful alien technology and devices, and is indeed gigantic. Upon exploring the area, they realize it is about the size of the entire city of Chicago. Reed Richards is able to discover the purpose of many of these technologies, including a healing device he uses to help the Enchantress, who was injured in the fight earlier. After they explore, Captain America gathers everyone together on the 451st level of the facility. They won the battle, but not the war. Wolverine wants to act, but Steve reminds him that the remaining villains are all major threats and should not be taken lightly. They have the advantage and they shouldn't squander it. Logan is dissatisfied with this, but Steve is undeterred. He sets up a patrol around the fortress to watch for attackers, and has 2 teams search the base for food and living quarters. Hundreds of miles away, Magneto has found a fortress of his own, in a strange and alien area of Battleworld. In this unusual place, Eric thinks about what to do next, and is surprised to find himself unusually sympathetic to the other humans stuck with him here. Meanwhile, the villains regroup at their base, where they are greeted by Dr. Doom. They are furious at him for turning on him earlier, but they are quickly subdued by Ultron. This is Doom's base now. These villains serve him. The villains agree, and Doom welcomes them inside. He is especially friendly to Molecule Man, knowing that Owen possesses more power than anyone else here. As Doom sets about with his plans, he informs Dr. Octopus that Galactus has taken up a spot on the top of a mountain. He has not moved in some time, and although Doom is not sure why, he has his suspicions. Back at the hero base, Magneto has arrived and successfully sneaks into the massive building. He finds a fusion generator that powers the facility, and sabotages it in an effort to distract the heroes. Nearby, the Human Torch and Spider-Man are talking. Peter is worried about the situation and whether or not they will ever see Earth again, but the Human Torch reassures him that the Fantastic Four have been on a couple space missions already, and is certain they will return home. Suddenly, Peter senses danger at the power plant. Johnny goes to get help, while Spider-Man heads to the reactor to investigate. The Human Torch says this is a little more high stakes than stopping a mugger, but Peter is certain he can handle it. Reinforcements quickly arrive, only to find Spider-Man trapped in a metal ball. He warns them about Magneto, but they've already figured that one out. Magneto attacks the heroes, encasing them in metal. He flees, but both Wasp and the Thing are able to escape the trap and pursue him. Magneto is able to surround Wasp in a small metal container. He takes her prisoner, and before the Thing can stop him, Ben is shocked when he suddenly reverts to human form. The other heroes are okay, but they can't rescue the Wasp right now. Thanks to the Hulk, who at this time in the character's history retains the intellect of Bruce Banner, they have learned that something else demands their attention. At Magneto's lair, the Wasp is freed from her prison. She finds Magneto relaxing, and he greets her amicably. He apologizes for any undue suffering, and wants to explain what he stands for, in addition to why. Over in the Citadel of Heroes, a fierce storm rages around the base. They are largely protected until a massive rock falls towards the complex, threatening to crush all the heroes. Luckily, Thor is on the scene. He smashes the oncoming object and smiles in victory. Inside, Hawkeye mentions how he misses his new wife and wishes he was back home. Iron Man and Captain Marvel search for any damage to the base, while Hulk, Captain America, and Reed Richards are inside, observing what they can of Battleworld. Galactus still maintains his vigil on the mountain, and his purpose here remains a mystery. Reed has also found the location of the villain's headquarters, and the Hulk states he was able to repair all the damage caused by Magneto. From a distance, Spider-Man observes Reed Richards and notes the man looks depressed. Reed misses his pregnant wife and son dearly, and being so far from them is taking a toll on the hero. Peter sets about exploring more of the base until he comes across the X-Men, who are having a secret meeting. They do not trust the Avengers, and want to leave to find Magneto. Professor X senses Spider-Man eavesdropping on them, so Peter reveals himself and declares he knows what they are up to. He goes to warn the others, so the X-Men try to stop him. But thanks to Peter's spider sense, he easily is able to escape his attackers. He finds Reed Richards, but before he can warn him, Spider-Man suddenly forgets what he was doing here, thanks to the power of Xavier's telepathy. Confused, he takes off as Cyclops comes by. The two men discuss how much they miss home and their wives, until Scott is called back by Professor X. Cyclops thinks to himself that Xavier hasn't acted this way in years. No longer bound by his wheelchair, the professor is acting more bold and active. But Scott is worried, as his mentor does not have much experience with combat on the front lines. Regardless, the X-Men set out to find Magneto and unite as a mutant faction, independent of the other heroes. Over at Magneto's fortress, the mutant is dismissing an offer from Doom to make an alliance. Eric wants to find his own path, though Doom warns him that this is a decision he cannot take back and will come to regret. The mutant is also making a connection with Wasp, and the two wind up kissing as the storm rages around them. Over in the villain base, Doom enters into a hidden chamber. Inside, it is revealed that Doom has found two human women on Battleworld who have agreed to serve as test subjects. Activating an alien device, the two are given superpowers. One woman gains molten skin, which she can use as a projectile, and decides to call herself Volcana. The other woman grows 1.5 feet taller, gaining vastly improved strength and durability with it. She decides to take on the mantle of Titania, and Doom introduces the new villains to the rest of the team. The leader has Ultron and Dr. Octopus prepare a strike on the heroes at dawn, while Titania tries to pick a fight with the Absorbing Man. But Creel feels he has nothing to prove to a girl, and she leaves in a rage, vowing to show her power tomorrow against the heroes. Volcana introduces herself to Molecule Man, and the two begin to forge a bond with one another. It is during this time that Thor goes to visit the captive villains. He comes across the Enchantress and releases her from her healing pod. He wants to have a talk with her, god to god, and she agrees, but insists they have this conversation elsewhere. Thor consents, and the two go through a portal together, but the Asgardian makes it clear that the Enchantress is still his prisoner. Dawn arrives shortly after that, and the villains begin their attack. They crash a vessel into the hero base, and Titania proves herself to be more than a formidable match against the Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic, while Volcana manages to take down the She-Hulk by herself. The other heroes fare no better, and the villains are easily able to free their imprisoned comrades. Doom is disappointed they didn't manage to kill or capture any of the heroes, but that is not important. He orders the villains to commence the final phase of their attack, and the hero base is leveled to the ground. The villains are pleased, but they can't find any of the heroes among the wreckage. Dr. Octopus sees that the heroes have escaped and are fleeing the ruins of their old base. In response, Titania and the wrecking crew begin throwing debris at the hero, but Molecule Man says he has this covered. Emboldened by Dr. Doom, he lifts an entire mountain range and drops it on top of the Avengers. Meanwhile, the Enchantress is trying to seduce Thor, but she is interrupted when the ground begins to shake violently. Thor insists they return and check on his friends, and she agrees to teleport them back to Hero Base. They appear right in front of the villains. Thor is furious and demands answers, but Doom only offers the Asgardian a merciful death. The god begins to battle all of the villains, and does quite well. They can't pin him down, nor can they overpower him. But Doom has added an extra weapon to Ultron, a special disintegrator. Ultron hits Thor, and in an instant, the Asgardian is gone, leaving behind only his hat and the tattered remains of his cape. The Enchantress is moved to tears at this, but Octopus is pleased. They won! They beat the heroes! But Doom reminds the villains that the X-Men and Magneto are still not accounted for. There's also one other matter. One of the villains dare to try and kill Doom. Kang the Conqueror is apologetic for his earlier actions, but nobody crosses Dr. Doom. Ultron disintegrates Kang, while the rest of the villains are ordered to return to their base. Elsewhere, the X-Men are traveling across Battleworlds. Colossus thinks on his lost love as he misses Kitty Pryde, not wanting to return without the girl's dragon. Rogue reminisces about her villainous past, and reconsiders siding with the X-Men. The mutants arrive at Magneto's lair, where Eric is using his powers to create a comb for Wasp. Professor X wants to join forces with his old friend, and Eric eagerly accepts. Together, they can win the Beyonders game, and begin a golden age for the mutant race. But Wasp reveals that she has been pretending to like Magneto all along. She flees to warn the Avengers, stealing a vehicle. Magneto prepares to stop her, but Professor X asks him not to. Ever since Xavier used his telepathy on Spider-Man, he has come to regret his actions. The ends cannot justify the means, and Magneto is actually persuaded by the merits of this argument to stand down. Deep underground, the heroes are revealed to be alive. Thanks to the Hulk and Iron Man, they survived, but the Green Giant is struggling to hold up the entire mountain range, while air supply is running out fast, and many among their numbers are badly wounded. Reed Richards wakes up and knows exactly what to do. Using a piece of Iron Man's armor, some of Hawkeye's trick arrows, and Spider-Man's web shooters, Reed is able to assemble a device that easily blows a hole in the mountain. The heroes escape, where they are greeted by Thor. The Asgardian used his powers over lightning to fake his own death, and has been desperately trying to dig his friends out since then. Steve sends this era's Captain Marvel to scout the area for a new source of food and shelter. She passes by a still Galactus and the ruins of their old headquarters, eventually finding a village. The small community looks like an ideal place to rest, but it has one problem. It is directly under Galactus. Lacking any other choice, they go to the village. The people living there are from an alien planet, likely brought here by the Beyonder to serve as civilians in the Secret War. The aliens are at first visibly worried about the visitors, but upon seeing their injuries, they let them into the village. One woman begins to treat the heroes, and the Human Torch instantly develops a crush on her. It is at this time that the Thing is surprised to find himself back in his rocky form, with no apparent explanation for the transformation. Reed has his suspicions about what's going on with Ben, but he does not share them for fear of causing unwanted grief in his longtime friend. Instead, Richards is distracted by an unsettling sight. Galactus is moving. From whatever corner of space Battleworld lies, the cosmic being was able to find his home, a massive space vessel the size of a solar system. It towers over both Battleworld and the star it orbits, and the heroes look on in shock. The villagers panic, and Jomini Storm tries to comfort the woman that healed him. But nobody speaks their language, making communication with these people very difficult. She takes him to a hut and activates a strange device that emits an unknown gas. Suddenly, the two are telepathically linked, sharing their entire life history in mere moments. Johnny learns that this woman's name is Zaji, and the two share a kiss. Meanwhile, Colossus still thinks of Shadowcat when he is called into action by Professor X. The X-Men gather together and are shown the presence of Galactus' ship. They will need to act quickly, but both Storm and Cyclops are resentful about taking orders from Professor X and Magneto, as each of the mutants feel that they are the ones who should be leading the X-Men. Doom is also well aware that Galactus' ship has arrived, and he orders his men to prepare for battle. Enchantress attempts to seduce Doom, and offers to heal his facial scars. But Victor is well aware that magic of that nature always comes with a price, so he rejects the offer. Furious, Enchantress says that Doom will regret this, and she leaves. Meanwhile, Professor X and Magneto are working together to try and mentally contact Galactus. With extreme difficulty, they manage to get the cosmic being's attention for a fraction of a moment, but the sheer power of Galactus is enough to cause a devastating explosion of psychic feedback over at Magneto's base. Reed Richards also tries to reason with Galactus, but he is ignored and easily pushed back by the World Eater. Viewing the heroes as mere pests, he unleashes a construct on his attackers. This being is powerful, able to easily knock the Hulk and Thor around. It is only defeated when Captain America, the Human Torch, and the Thing work together to take the construct down. Galactus uses this opportunity to assemble a massive machine on top of the mountain, while the villains arrive and attack the heroes once more. Yet another battle erupts, but because the heroes were worn down by the construct, the villains stand ready to win this fight and kill the superheroes once and for all. Suddenly, the X-Men enter the fray, and the mutants make short work of the villains. Galactus is briefly distracted by the sheer power Storm seems to have on Battleworld, and Doom uses this opportunity to infiltrate the World Eater's ship. Seeing that Doom has abandoned them yet again, the villains flee with Enchantress, but not before the Wrecking Crew is able to badly injure Colossus. Xavier knows that Peter can't be moved in this state, so he orders the X-Men to leave them behind while they chase after the villains, trusting the Avengers will take care of their injured friend. Peter is taken to the village's healer, and instantly, Colossus forgets about Shadowcat, developing sudden feelings for Zaji. Reed Richards explains to Captain America that the device Galactus is building will assist him in consuming Battleworld. Though this will technically win the Beyonders game, it is clear that Galactus has other plans in mind. Meanwhile, the Wasp is still desperately seeking out the Avengers when she accidentally crashes her vessel. Janet finds a swamp nearby with an unknown structure in it, but before she can explore the area, she is attacked by the lizard. This villain was with the others during the first attack on the heroes, but had until now disappeared. He seems to want to live in the swamp in peace. He tries to attack Janet in response to her intrusion, but the Avenger manages to calm her attacker down. She comforts the lizard and offers to clean the villain's wounds. On board Galactus' vessel, Doom is surprised to make an unexpected discovery. He found a strange device that assembled energy into the villain known as Claw, the self-styled Master of Sound. The man's mental health has badly deteriorated to the point that he is barely making any sense, but he is able to explain to Doom how he wound up on Galactus' ship. Claw is a being made of pure sound energy, energy that was once absorbed by the mutant Dazzler. He existed inside of her until she unleashed a massive wave of energy against Galactus. This energy was absorbed by the world ship, and with it, Claw existed here until now, slowly going insane in the process. Doom looks over Battleworld and decides to send Claw as a messenger to his villains. Upon his arrival, the villains have no interest in listening to a raving lunatic like Claw, but he is able to prove that he serves Doom through the use of a code phrase. Meanwhile, Galactus notices that somebody is on board his ship as a result of the teleportation, and he violently expels Doom from the world ship. In Magneto's fortress, Professor X uses his abilities to track down the activities of the villains. Though the Enchantress is able to resist Xavier's telepathy, the mutant learns that the villains are completing some mission in a volcanic area of Battleworld. Professor X orders Cyclops, Wolverine, and Rogue to go investigate, while Storm confronts Xavier. Storm is furious, as she is supposed to be the leader of the X-Men, but Xavier makes it clear that given the situation, he's in charge here on Battleworld, and will not tolerate any insubordination. Over in the hero camp, Colossus is still struggling with his feelings. He's having trouble remembering Kitty, and is growing increasingly jealous of Johnny Storm's relationship with Zaji. Meanwhile, the Hulk is growing impatient and is tired of just sitting around, but Captain America refuses to waste the hero's strength on pointless vendettas or unnecessary attacks. Elsewhere, Hawkeye is hard at work creating more arrows, while Spider-Man mentions that he misses his old web shooters. Iron Man hits on Captain Marvel, but she quickly brushes him off. She thinks to herself that the Avenger always used to be sophisticated and intelligent, but the way he's been acting lately, it's almost as if another man is inside the armor here on Battleworld. Half a world away in the volcanic area of Battleworld, the X-Men engage in a battle with the villains. Wolverine is able to badly injure Molecule Man, and the bad guys flee before they are able to complete their task. Cyclops realizes that the villains are here to reactivate the volcano in an effort to distract Galactus, so Scott triggers an eruption himself by using a powerful optic blast. The X-Men flee as the entire area erupts, hoping they did the right thing. Over in the swamp, Wasp is suddenly attacked by a team of villains, who are looking to retrieve the lizard. They badly wound Janet, causing her companion to attack the Wrecking Crew in a blind fury. In spite of this, the other villains are able to capture both the lizard and Wasp thanks to the alien vehicle they are piloting. The heroes look on as Galactus nearly completes his machine, until they notice they are being watched by a mysterious figure. She introduces herself as Spider-Woman, though this is not the hero the Avengers know from earlier encounters. She explains that a part of Battleworld was made out of an entire suburb of Denver. The heroes tell her the situation going on with the Beyonder, while Spider-Woman demonstrates her incredible strength. She agrees to help them out when suddenly, the villains arrive in the same vehicle from which they traverse the swamp. They attack the village and bring the Avengers a present in the form of an unresponsive Wasp. The Avengers take her to Zaji, but there's nothing the healer can do. Hawkeye reluctantly declares her dead. The heroes are outraged and want to take revenge on the villains for this, but there is no time for that. They need to stay here and get ready to confront Galactus, and Steve still refuses to let the Avengers waste a single ounce of their power. Meanwhile, Volcana sees that Molecule Man is badly injured, so she makes a deal with the Enchantress to be transported to Owen in an attempt to help him. The Sorceress only asks that one day Volcana repay the favor. The villain's ship housing Owen and the others is soon attacked by the X-Men. The mutants do well against the bad guys, but they manage to get away. Still, the X-Men came together as a team, and Professor X considers the mission to be a success. Galactus finally notices the volcanic activity caused by Cyclops, and turns his attention to that for the time being. The villains return to their base to heal their injuries and rest, while they are forced to put an uncooperative lizard into prison. They are surprised to find She-Hulk is here, waiting for them and eager to take her revenge on the murder of Wasp. She easily takes down the Wrecking Crew, but struggles against the might of Titania. Together, the villains rally and are able to overpower Jennifer. During this time, Doom returns, badly injured by Galactus. Enchantress sees Doom and is furious, demanding to know the villain's plans. But Victor is out of ideas. He tells the sorcerer to do as she pleases. It is over. Finished. The other Avengers notice that She-Hulk is missing and want to help her. But once again, Steve is forced to say no. An entire universe depends on their actions here, and they must be careful. But all this changes when Steve is contacted telepathically by Xavier. Having kept himself updated on the situation, Professor X offers the assistance of the X-Men, saying they will watch over Galactus, while the Avengers go and confront the villains. Elsewhere in the village, Colossus finds Zaji, and is horrified to find that she is terribly ill. Over in the villain's fortress, Molecule Man is being treated and watched over by Volcana. Claw releases the lizard, as he can't stand to see somebody in prison like he was for so many years. Also, he loves the way Connors talks. The rest of the villains are about to finish off She-Hulk when they hear a loud noise outside. The Avengers are here, and a violent battle begins. Spider-Man takes down Wrecking Crew member Bulldozer with ease, but his suit is badly damaged by the Absorbing Man. The Thing tries to stop Creel, only for Ben to revert to human form once more. Luckily, he is saved by Spider-Woman. Meanwhile, the Hulk confronts the Enchantress, only for her to easily bring the Avenger to his knees with her magic. She tries to do the same to Captain America, but he is too strong-willed to be affected by her charms. They battle, and Steve is able to knock her unconscious. The rest of the villains do not stand much of a chance against the heroes. Volcana is able to badly damage Iron Man's armor, though she is forced to surrender after Captain Marvel threatens to hurt Molecule Man, while Spider-Man impressively is able to take down Titania all by himself. The Human Torch and Captain America run into Ultron, who nearly overpowers the both of them. In spite of being in danger himself, Steve orders Johnny to go Nova. The Human Torch does so, destroying an entire section of the base in the process. In spite of his outer body being made of adamantium, something vital inside of Ultron seems to melt, defeating the robot and rendering him inoperable. Steve then finds Doom barely alive and completely unaware of his surroundings. He's harmless like this, so Rogers leaves him alone for now. The rest of the heroes then find Claw playing a game of patty cake with the Thing, and the Lizard says that so long as they are allowed to finish this game, they will obey the orders of the heroes willingly. After a rousing round of patty cake, the villains are taken prisoner, while the She-Hulk is treated for her injuries. Doom is safely locked away, but they can't take off his armor, knowing it is the only thing keeping the villain alive, and is most certainly full of traps to prevent it from being removed. Back in the village, Colossus tries to desperately save Zaji. He learns that the healer nearly sacrificed herself to save the Wasp. When Hawkeye and Captain Marvel return to the village, they are surprised to find Janet is indeed alive and well. The rest of the heroes explore the villain's base. Reed repairs Iron Man's armor and is even able to upgrade it with the alien technologies available at the fortress. Thor finds a special device that creates any sort of clothing the user desires, allowing the Asgardian to restore his uniform. With Peter's own outfit badly damaged from the last fight, he seeks this machine out after learning about this. He has trouble finding the device, but comes across one machine that he assumes is the one Thor used. The machine doesn't make new clothes for Peter, and instead it produces a strange black ball. When Peter picks it up, it surrounds him, and Spider-Man is pleased to discover that he has a brand new black suit. Peter assumes that he was subconsciously thinking of Spider-Woman's own outfit, not realizing the true nature of this new accessory, when suddenly the ground begins to shake. The X-Men are called forth by Professor X. Galactus is finally ready to devour Battleworld. True to their word, the X-Men are doing what they can to stop him, but a drone is sent to prevent their interference. The drone is powerful, easily resisting the X-Men's attacks, while knocking the mutants around without difficulty. Nightcrawler teleports on top of the drone, disabling the device's sensors while being badly injured in the process. With the drone exposed, Cyclops and Magneto unleash their full power on the device. The result is observed by Hawkeye, Wasp, and Captain Marvel in the form of a massive explosion. They want to help the X-Men, but know it would be better to wait for reinforcements. The Avengers race back to help against Galactus. On the plane, Ben rages about how he keeps changing back and forth with no understanding as to why, when suddenly, he finds himself as the Thing once more. Iron Man watches over Spider-Woman, thinking they don't know much about her. He is suspicious about the young woman's motivations, and decides to keep an eye on her. He also thinks to himself that he shares something in common with this new Spider-Woman. They are both strangers to the Avengers. Lots of people have worked with Iron Man before, but that was Tony Stark. And he is an Iron Man, not anymore. This whole time, James Rhodes has been wearing the armor as the new Iron Man. Now, and forever. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is eagerly trying out his new suit. He's ecstatic to find that the new costume even has some sort of built-in webbing system, and it can change form at his will. But the hero's thoughts are interrupted when the chaotic energy surrounding Galactus' machine hits their ship, forcing the heroes to crash. They are saved by Colossus, and together, they charge the Devourer of Worlds. With Iron Man's armor upgrades, James is actually able to damage Galactus' machine. But at once, Reed realizes that something is wrong. The heroes shouldn't be able to put any kind of fight up against Galactus, but it looks like they actually stand a chance. This must be the Beyonder's doing. Mr. Fantastic realizes that they should let Galactus win, as this cosmic being is the only one who stands a chance against the Beyonder. As Reed tries to explain this to the others, the World Eater and Mr. Fantastic suddenly disappear. Reed finds himself on board the World Ship, where he is greeted by Galactus. The Devourer of Worlds shows Reed that his wife and son are alive and well, and Reed is pleased to see that the baby hasn't come yet. But Galactus didn't bring Reed here to show him that, and instead, he has something important to tell his guest. Back at the villain base, Doom at last knows what he must do. He easily escapes his prison cell, but leaves the rest of the villains behind. He has no use for any of them, except for one, Claw. Doom states that within the Master of Sound lies the secret to Galactus' home. Victor declares that he must dissect Claw, and the Master of Sound is all too eager to get started with his own dissection. Meanwhile, Colossus is able to find the rest of the X-Men, who survived against Galactus and are alive and well. All the other heroes regroup in the village. Zaji is happy to see the Human Torch, but Johnny brushes her off as he is too worried about Reed to have any time for her. As the other heroes debate their next course of action, Reed returns. Richard states that Galactus told him that Reed is a force of the universe, a universal champion of life, just how Galactus is an instrument of death. Reed isn't sure what that means. It could mean that Galactus must be stopped, or that he must be allowed to succeed. Galactus reappears on the mountain, and Captain America decides that the only thing they can do is fight. X-Men and Avengers unite and agree to take on the Devourer of Worlds together. Over at the villain base, Doom's dissection of Claw goes well, and he found what he was looking for. In spite of now just being ahead, as a being of sound energy, Claw is largely unaffected by the loss of his limbs and torso. The Beyonder has also opened a portal up once more to observe Galactus. Everything in Doom's plan is ready. Meanwhile, the battle against Galactus is not going well, as the heroes of Earth are no match for a being so far above even the gods. But the heroes are successful at working as a team to destroy Galactus' machine. With the device inoperable, Galactus leaves and returns to his world ship once more. Reed knows that it's likely over. Galactus has no actual need of the machine to destroy worlds, it simply makes his energy absorption far more efficient. It is then that Reed realizes Galactus' true plan. The Devourer of Worlds begins to absorb the world ship itself. With the tremendous energy coursing through this massive vessel, Galactus will have more than enough power to wipe out Battleworld and possibly the Beyonder himself. As Galactus begins to take in this energy, Doom activates his device. Using special lenses from Claw's body, Doom is able to channel the energy of the world ship away from Galactus and into the hands of Victor himself. The plan works, but Doom is nearly overwhelmed by the sheer power. All of reality now bends to the will of Doom, and it's nearly too much for him. But he soon learns to adapt to this tremendous new strength. He discovers Captain Marvel was sent by the heroes to investigate what just happened to Galactus, and Professor Xavier's mind link with the hero is suddenly severed. Knowing that Captain Marvel is in trouble, the heroes go to the Avengers' damaged craft. It is inoperable, but that is no challenge for the Master of Magnetism, and Magneto is able to use his powers to quickly shuttle them back to the villain's base. Captain America is impressed, but still mindful that Magneto has tried to kill them all many times before. Wolverine reprimands Steve, saying that all mutants have always been at war. Rogers may champion the American dream, but only for the human race. He says that Steve never fights for mutants and protects humans that would persecute them, and nearly comes to blows with the Avenger. When Steve labels Magneto a terrorist, Logan says that's just what the big army calls a little army, and he loses what little respect he had for Rogers. Meanwhile, Doom ponders his next move. He now possesses enough strength to easily win the Beyonder's game, but he knows there is nothing the Beyonder could offer that Doom could not achieve himself with his newfound strength. So Doom decides that the Beyonder himself is his true enemy. He alters his armor and creates a special device on his breastplate that will counter the energy that the Beyonder used during his first encounter with Doom, and bids Claw farewell. By the time the heroes arrive, Doom is long gone. They find Captain Marvel frozen in her energy form, and the remains of Claw. Out in space, past the Beyonder's portal, Doom approaches the almighty being. Reed observes this happening, and finds Galactus has been rendered unconscious and is once again floating in space. Battleworld begins to be affected by the battle between Doom and the Beyonder, as tremendous energy flows through the portal. Inside, Doom is overpowered by the Beyonder, who has a seemingly endless supply of energy. He sends a message to the heroes asking for their assistance. Magneto obliges and tries to help Doom, only for the Avengers to stop him. They get into a fight until it is too late. Doom lay before the Beyonder, defeated. Out of curiosity, Doom's opponent begins to inspect Victor. He learns of Doom's past, how Victor became a master of magic and science, and how his mother was trapped in a hell dimension. He sees how Doom tried to contact her, only for his face to be badly scarred as a result. The Beyonder then begins to inspect Doom's body, taking apart his skin and armor. Doom wakes up in utter agony, with death only seconds away. But he is Doom. The breastplate hovers near him, and with the last of his strength, he reaches out to it. On Battleworld, a massive tremor badly damages the villain base. The heroes are ordered to flee the now unstable building, while Captain America and Wolverine insist on staying behind to help free the villains. They successfully save everyone, and Wolverine is quite impressed. Logan realizes that Captain America fights for all people, human and mutant, and the two settle their differences. Outside, the heroes spy a massive ball of light in the sky. Something is forming out of it, and suddenly, a massive figure stands before them.
The Beyonder is dead. Now, the supreme being in the universe is Doom.
The heroes panic and get ready for their last stand, but Doom asks them to stop. The Beyonder no longer exists, and Doom has been reborn. He declares the Secret Wars to be over. Victor takes off his mask and shows that his scars have been easily healed with his newfound powers. Professor X cannot read Doom's mind anymore, but he can sense that the villain genuinely means them no harm. The rest of the villains look on from a distance, confused as to why Doom is talking to their enemies. Molecule Man feels betrayed, so he lifts a massive part of Battleworlds, flinging the heroes far away. Owen is furious at Doom, but Victor is unruffled by all of this. The two men are now the most powerful beings in the universe, and there's no need for them to fight. Doom decides to help Molecule Man, showing Owen that his limits are entirely psychosomatic. He's only limited by his own psychology. Owen can control anything, do anything. And with the help of Doom, the Molecule Man now has full control over his powers. Victor disappears, while Owen says that he will take care of the rest of the villains from now on. He assembles a ship, and they agree to go to Volcana's home, revealed to be the same Denver suburb where Spider-Woman came from. In this area of Denver, the villains all agree it is time to go home. This is now an easy task for Molecule Man, and the entire suburb is encased in a barrier and lifted high above the ground. The heroes observe this after regrouping at the villain's old base, but there is little that can be done to stop them, much to the grief of Spider-Woman. Colossus, who is still obsessing over Zalji, leaves the base to go and find the woman he now loves. Meanwhile, the Hulk is possessed by an unknown ball of energy. Spider-Woman spots him and tries to stop the Avenger, only for her to be possessed instead. She comes across Claw, but before the possessed hero can do anything, Doom appears and takes the Master of Sound for himself. He leaves behind an invitation for the heroes to come to the Tower of Doom, which the heroes assume is referring to the massive tower that just appeared out of nowhere not far from the base. In this new building, Doom tells Claw that he needs to rest. He no longer has any need for sleep, but must be constantly concentrating in order to control his phenomenal new power. Meanwhile, Colossus finds Zaji and declares his love for her. The woman is pleased at him coming by to visit. 18 hours later, Nightcrawler is worried that Peter has gone missing. Wolverine says that he probably went back to the village. Kurt mentions how unusual it is for Colossus to be unfaithful to Kitty Pryde, but Logan states this is clearly a side effect of Zaji's healing abilities. They don't know anything about this village's customs and culture, and likely, in her eyes, this was probably a standard byproduct of patient care. The heroes go to visit Doom at the appointed time. They are greeted by Claw, who takes them to the great and powerful Doom. Victor welcomes the heroes and affirms that he is indeed now all-powerful, but has come to regret his actions as a mortal. He cannot undo all the terrible things he has done without risking damage to the space-time continuum, but he still wants to set things right. First, Victor restores Kang the Conqueror to life and returns the villain back to his home. He then states that Galactus has already been found and rescued by his herald, a female named Nova. This only leaves the heroes. Doom wants to atone for the suffering he caused these well-meaning people, and so he offers them a boon. All they need to do is ask for it. The heroes debate their options. They could ask to be returned home, but Reed is certain that he can do that himself. They then consider asking him to find Lockheed, who is still missing. Captain America notices that Spider-Woman is staring intently at Claw, and decides to tell Doom that the heroes want nothing out of the villain. Victor accepts this and bids the heroes farewell. He orders them to leave forever, while he shall ascend to a higher plane of existence. The heroes leave, but they notice that Spider-Woman is missing. Captain America resolves to go back and find her, knowing that she was acting oddly. The others are worried that Doom will kill Steve for trespassing, but he orders the heroes to wait for him for 15 minutes. If he doesn't return, they are to leave and assume that he and Spider-Woman are dead. Inside, Steve finds Doom and Claw are relaxing. Doom is not upset to see Captain America and asks what it is he wants. Rogers explains the situation, and Claw is ordered to find Spider-Woman. As he sets out to find her, Claw is suddenly trapped, and the energy controlling Spider-Woman takes over the mad villain. Meanwhile, Doom explains to Steve what happened to his mother, and how he would like to go back and rescue her before ascending. Claw returns, and Steve takes Spider-Woman and leaves. When Doom is questioned about what is happening by Claw, Victor only says that he fears the inevitable is about to happen. The heroes regroup at Villain Base, and Colossus is reluctantly called back into action. Captain America explains to the others what happened inside the tower, and states that he is worried that Doom is not as powerful as he claims. Why would an immortal god care about his appearance, or even his mother? They all agree to fight Doom, when suddenly, a massive explosion kills every one of them. Dr. Doom is too powerful to hide secrets from now. He had no choice but to kill his would-be attackers. The heroes are dead. Captain America's shield lays on the ground, in pieces. There is nobody left to stop Victor now. Meanwhile, several million miles away, the villains are continuing their journey home. The Enchantress sneaks off to the bathroom and calls forth a water elemental. The being explains how the Secret Wars were all just a grand experiment conducted by the Beyonder, and how Doom stole this being's unstoppable power. The elemental also says that the Beyonder is not dead, just severely weakened. She goes on to confirm that the ball of energy that has been possessing people is the Beyonder, and it is currently inhabiting the body of Claw, waiting for the ideal time to strike at Doom. Outside, the Lizard is upset at his surroundings and begins to act aggressively. Before the other villains can kill him, though, Volcana comforts the creature. But Dr. Octopus has had it. He has no faith in Molecule Man or his abilities, so he begins to smash the apartment. Suddenly, Owen appears before them and demands an explanation. As the two men argue, the Enchantress covertly calls Volcana away. They go to a park together, and Enchantress reveals that it's time for the woman to repay her debt to the sorceress. Asgard must be warned about the powers of Doom, but the magic user needs Volcana's life force in order to complete the long journey. As she begins to drain Volcana of her life force, Owen demonstrates to Octavius that they are in capable hands today. Molecule Man has used his tremendous power to restore all the stars the Beyonder had eliminated. But Octopus goes into a fit of rage. This is impossible, and he accuses Owen of lying to them all. Molecule Man gets fed up with Octavius's behavior and imprisons him in a pile of concrete. He reprimands Dr. Octopus and says that when they get home, he's going to a nice institution for the criminally insane. Therapy worked wonders for Owen, and the man hopes it can help Octavius too. The lizard then warns Owen that Volcana is missing, and thanks to the kindness she showed him earlier, he wants to help the Molecule Man find her. They are successful and manage to stop the Enchantress, only for her and the lizard to accidentally wind up back on Battleworld. Connors is furious and attacks the Asgardian, so she drains the creature of his life force, leaving only a corpse behind. With the lizard's life energy, Enchantress returns home to Asgard. Inside the Tower of Doom, Claw watches over Victor, who nearly falls asleep. Doom is getting tired as he has suppressed enough of his power in order to keep it under control that his body is beginning to act like that of a mortal again. But if Doom falls asleep, there's no telling what his subconscious will do with the Beyonder's power. Claw says that he might even accidentally return the heroes to life, and gleefully comments that that might have happened already. The Master of Sound mocks Doom, saying that he obviously left the heroes in a state that could easily return them to life. Victor could have turned them all into dust with a flick of his fingers, and they wouldn't have stood a chance. But the villain chose to kill them in a way that would make it easy for Zaji to heal Colossus at the cost of her own life. And from there, the rest of the heroes could be saved with the base's advanced technology, something Doom also chose to leave intact. Doom dismisses this all as the ravings of a madman, but it is clear that part of his subconscious wanted the heroes to survive. Sure enough, the heroes have returned, as Mjolnir slams into the Tower of Doom. Seeing this, Doom flies into a fit of rage and nearly loses control over the Beyonder's power. Frustrated, Victor gives a small fraction of his abilities to Claw and orders his lackey to attack the heroes. As they charge Doom's tower, Claw creates an army of monsters, rebuilds Ultron, and orders them all to attack the Avengers and X-Men. A fierce battle begins outside of the tower, but Claw chooses to let Steve Rogers in, and covertly follows him as Captain America confronts Dr. Doom. In a fit of rage, Victor disintegrates Rogers, only for his subconscious to immediately reform the Avenger again and again. Upset, Doom begins to lose control over his powers once more, and as Steve tries to help him, the Beyonder surges forward and takes back his powers from the once almighty Victor Von Doom. Claw is sorry and tries to explain how he was possessed, until he, Victor, and the Beyonder all vanish. The battle is over, just as soon as it had begun. Colossus mourns Zaji, and the heroes hold a funeral for their savior. Back at the base, Reed starts to work on a means for them to return home, while those who were injured in the last fight are treated for their wounds. Spider-Man comes across Professor X and the others, and sees that Xavier has created a new costume so he can continue taking a more active role in the X-Men when they return to Earth. Peter is shocked to learn that the device that made the costumes for the other heroes is not the same as the one that gave Parker his black suit. The others also don't have clothes with special abilities like he does. Spider-Man is concerned about this, but dismisses it as likely nothing to be worried about. The heroes are then surprised that they just got another visitor, none other than Dr. Kirk Connors, returned to human form. It seems that when the lizard persona was drained out of his body, only Connors remained behind. Spider-Man finds this strange, but he is glad that the doctor came back when he did so they can all go home together. Lockheed also returns, and the X-Men are surprised to find that the dragon has found himself a mate. Reed explains what is going on. The planet seems to have been exposed to the Beyonder's energy in the last fight, allowing for those with a strong sense of desire to have their wishes fulfilled. Hearing this, Steve gathers together the remains of his shield, and they are reassembled in an instant. With that, the heroes are finally ready to go back home. The ship that brought him here to Battleworld is still in orbit around the planet, and it will teleport them all back to Earth. To get there, Reed will need to move the heroes in groups back onto the spaceship. The first batch is sent without difficulty. Next up are the X-Men, though Colossus doesn't want to go home. Try as they might, they just can't bring Zaji back. Xavier has a talk with Peter and convinces him to return back home rather than give up and wallow in grief. The X-Men are then sent home. Next up is the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, but the Thing refuses to go. On Battleworld, for whatever reason, Ben can now switch at will between the Thing and his human form. He can't give this opportunity up and insists on staying here. She-Hulk agrees to take his place on the Fantastic Four, and Reed leaves his old friend the teleportation device in case Ben changes his mind. With that, the Thing says goodbye to his longtime friends. Now alone on Battleworld, Ben sits, surveying the landscape and dwelling on an uncertain future. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this was my complete story of Secret Wars from 1984. Well, this was one of those long stories, wasn't it? So, let's talk real quick about how I feel concerning all of this. I will say this story is far from perfect. Exposition is relied on heavily like many old comics, many characters behave in silly ways, and the power levels of the various forces involved in this story basically change as it is convenient to the plot. If anything, the original Secret Wars does leave me appreciating modern comics. For all the problems associated with new comics, they do a lot of things right and tell a much more cohesive story than comics like this older title. But none of these problems really strike me as that big a deal. Most old comics rely heavily on exposition because all the art back then was done by hand. And once you realize that, well, the art becomes tremendously impressive. So that's pretty easy to excuse. And for every moment where a character acts like an idiot, there are many more where they act very clever. For example, Steve Rogers is by far the best leader in this story, biding his time and carefully waiting for the right moment to act. He also recognizes the problem with an allegedly immortal Doom, and senses the danger Victor poses to the universe. And as for the wildly fluctuating power levels of various characters, well, a lot of that can be explained away by the Beyonders' influence, and the rest, well, I'm struggling to think of a comic that doesn't change how strong a character is when it is convenient to the story. And in the end, I'm looking at a story that has to be one of the best crossovers Marvel has ever pulled off. Yeah, this is an event where pretty much everything is done right. The art and tone make the story feel big and epic. The story is filled to the brim with cool ideas and concepts. And each and every character in the story gets their own little arc and plays a part in the story. Considering the amount of characters involved, that's pretty amazing. So the original Secret Wars really blew me away. Knowing that this story is over 30 years old, it's amazing how resistant it is to feeling terribly out of date or stale. There are actually a lot of jokes in this comic I found really funny, and though some of the dialogue is a little out of touch at this point, most of it works surprisingly well. And on top of all of this does something that every good big comic book event should do. It has a huge impact on the ongoing continuity of the Marvel Universe. Not only does this introduce some major changes to characters like the Lizard, Molecule Man, and Doctor Doom, but we also get to see the origins of some pretty important characters. In particular, the Beyonder and Titania would go on to have a major role in the Marvel Universe and still appear in comics to this day. Julia Carpenter also has an early appearance here as the second Spider-Woman, which I found pretty cool to see. But the most significant development in this story has to be the introduction of Venom. Yes, you guys just watched the very first appearance of Spider-Man's black suit, which would eventually be revealed as the symbiote we all know and love. So it's all pretty cool in my eyes. I really liked seeing Secret Wars and getting lots of moments of, oh, that's how that happened, and seeing how it has an effect on the modern story. It's also neat to see how this story is subtly used in the modern versions of Secret Wars and its predecessor, Time Runs Out. In the new stories, nobody mentions the original Secret Wars directly, but it's very cool to see many of the characters who showed up in the 1984 Secret Wars are also playing a big part in the 2015 Secret Wars. I like that sense of symmetry, and it also adds a sense of legacy that works quite well. Let me know what you guys think of this classic story in the comment section below. You can also find a complete list of all of our complete stories on one convenient page at our website, the link to which you can find in the video description below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.